Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmina from Jasmina Astrology. Today, I have a special guest, and we're going to talk about her new book about Juno. And before we start talking about Juno and what is it all about, and I just want to introduce Lianne. Lianne, welcome. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. I collaborated with Lianne, I think a couple of years ago about we talked about Haumea,
Yeah.
and I think that's your next book.
Yeah.
So, so that there you go. You can get a sneak peek of what is Haumea all about. Lianne is a practicing astrologer, a teacher, a writer, a member of Scottish Astrology Association. You can find her in Astrological Association, in Mayo School, anywhere, and you will tell people where they can find you, where they can find the book later. Welcome again. Thank you for the book. I thought it was such a gem. Juno is underrated.
Yeah.
I use the asteroids from the beginning of my practice. I always have them there because they're giving us a deeper layer of everything. So before we start, many people are going to say, what is Juno? Why is it important? So let's start with that part.
Yeah. So yeah, Juno's out there in the asteroid belt, along with the likes of Vesta and Pallas, and also Ceres. Ceres is actually a dwarf planet, the only one in the asteroid belt. But yeah, Juno's out there and not particularly big. Juno is essentially a lump of rock in the asteroid belt, but it's the symbology of Juno that's so important. Juno was Jupiter's wife. Okay, so she was the queen sitting alongside Jupiter, right? Up there, the top of the heavens, and along with Jupiter and the likes of Ceres and Neptune and Pluto, she's daughter of Saturn. And she's granddaughter of Uranus, so she's in a very powerful dynasty.
She's a royal family. In a royal family,
she's the queen. She's the queen. She's sister and sister and wife of Jupiter. But as we know, the gods were quite incestuous, weren't they? They didn't mind sharing each other. So she's incredibly powerful just through the family tree, if you like. But the more I've worked with Juno over the years, I've found Juno to be an incredibly powerful energy in natal charts, but also in forecasting as well. So whether it's transit Juno or progress Juno and Juno returns, which happen every 4.5 years or so, they're fantastic markers to follow, because we've got the inner planets that we use for forecasting, and then we get to the social planets and the outer planets, which are more generational. But Juno has a cycle of around 4.5 years. So Juno's not as fast moving as the inner planets, but they're not as slow moving as the planets beyond Juno. So brilliant for midterm forecasting. So really just very versatile. Juno's so versatile. That's the thing.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So many people just associate with partnership, commitments, like long term. But what else? I know there's I love what you said in the book, that she's a version of a Venus. I thought it was. I thought it was so lovely.
I mean, Venus is all about the romance and everything that's beautiful and lovely in a partnership. At least at the beginning. But then Juno's been married to Jupiter, right? That was no bed of roses. It wouldn't be easy being married to Jupiter, because Jupiter was unfaithful. He was always having affairs. He was always having illegitimate children with, other gods or humans even. And Juno had a bit of a life with Jupiter. And it's like all that glitters isn't gold. For example, if we look at the royal family in the UK, you think they live this luxurious, privileged life in, castles and palaces, and they're not short of money, but their lives aren't.
Yeah.
particularly easy. You know, with privilege and a high position and hierarchy comes responsibility. So yeah, I think Juno rips the realism. Juno rips the gloss off a long-term relationship, because any long-term relationship demands compromise, forgiveness, tolerance, turning a blind eye sometimes, you know. Yeah.
I like that, because Venus wouldn't per se tolerate dirty socks or or toilet seat not being put down, but Juno will. So that's the difference, right? And I thought
it's about the realism of a relationship, because real relationships that are long-term and committed aren't always easy.
I like that. And I know because in the book, again, I'm going to reference to the book, there's examples of natal charts, mundane, synastry, which it fascinates me personally, medicine, Juno as well. But let's go back to synastry, because I love always looking at the connections, and because it's about partnerships and having somebody on the other side. I know I met my first husband when Jupiter was on my Juno. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that story. So that is a correlation. What is then significant? What is significant, if anything, in the synastry? So two charts, if you look at two charts together, if there's Juno connections with what to signify maybe a long-term relationship, for people who would like to know, what is the signification?
So I think, as with any form of synastry, you always want a nice connection with the luminaries.
Yes.
The sun and moon. You know, a lovely Juno connection with someone else's sun and moon will be beautiful. All their angles. If Juno falls on someone else's angles in the synastry, it's going to be a very significant relationship that will be built on commitment. You know, and
I can testify. I'm just going to say, my second husband, and I hope this is the one. My Juno is on his descendant. There's 2 degrees, so it's like a 2, but still, we take 2 degrees orb. So literally in his 7th house on the descendant on top. My lovely. Juno. Yeah.
Lovely. So that says it all. And you know, for example, if someone's Juno falls on the other person's midheaven, it could be that could be a romantic long-term relationship, but it could also be about a career collaboration, a business collaboration type thing.
Yes.
So you know, Juno would be sort of very important in a career, but life direction as well, a shared life goal or life path, you know, or the journey through life.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then of course Juno, good connections with, you know, Venus and Mars. You know, just work with Juno like you would with the other planets in synastry. But I would certainly consider Juno and synastry to act like a benefic, you know, as you treat Venus and Jupiter like that, and a supportive energy as well, but an energy that brings energy to the relationship. It's going to be dynamic, because Juno is dynamic.
Yes. Yeah, I like it. I like Juno just because it gives me, as you said, more realistic approach. You know, Venus is all fluffy and, you know, romance. And what you said, when it's gone, what happens then, right? What is Venus? You know, Venus likes her pleasures. She likes to be in, you know, kind of, you know, she doesn't do compromise. Juno does. So that's why it's very important. I like that. I think Juno is very important. And now please tell everybody the mystery of peacocks and Juno. What is it all about? I know you said it's in the book. It's nicely written in the book, but just quickly tell people, what is this peacock-Juno connection?
So the peacock is Juno's sacred bird. You know, if you look at all the old artwork from the Renaissance era and mythological artwork, Juno's always pictured with a peacock. It was a sacred bird. And what happened, one of the famous myths involving Jupiter's infidelity, because he was always cheating. So he was having an affair with Io, which was Juno's handmaid, or in some versions of the myth, Juno's priestess. So Juno found out about it. Jupiter had tried to disguise and hide the affair. He disguised himself as a dark cloud and Io as a cow. But Juno saw through that, okay? So she sent her faithful servant, August the Giant, to guard Io, okay? Anyway, Jupiter sent Mercury along. Mercury played some music and August fell asleep. And August had 100 eyes and he never ever closed all his eyes at the same time. But this time he did. Okay, so Mercury ended up killing August, allowing Io to escape. So Juno was grief-stricken that August, her faithful servant, had been killed. So she took August's eyes and placed them on the tail of the peacock. And that's why a peacock's tail looks like it has eyes. And there's the link to Juno being able to see everything, because you can't hide anything from Juno. She's the type of person, she knows when her partner's cheating. It's like, don't try and fool me. Don't pull the wool over my eyes. I know you're cheating. I know you're lying. I know something's not right. And yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. I think it's, especially mythology, there's so many things, and it's true. Like I can testify, like I told you my 2 marriages were connected with Juno, both of them. So it's just, it for me, Juno is really, really, and what I wanted to talk to you about. In the book, you mentioned that there's many Juno celebrations. So first day of the month, we have these little Junos, and we have Juno Moneta tomorrow, right? March 1st. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I like that. So tell us more.
Absolutely.
What does that mean? As little, I call them little Junos.
Well, they are, because Juno was really highly esteemed in ancient Rome and Roman culture. And there were so many temples dedicated solely to Juno. And she was also part of the Capitoline triad with Jupiter and Minerva. So she was so highly revered. And there's also a very strong resonance with the moon. Okay, and the monthly cycle of the moon. So a lot of Juno's festivals or the days of celebration were linked into the cycle of the moon. So, and also, Juno was the goddess of childbirth. She protects women in childbirth, women in labor. So there was always a day to celebrate that as well. And people prayed to Juno in our temples. When childbirth was coming close, just, prayed that, everything went well. But Juno's got so many roles and so many epithets, or sort of labels, or jobs, so to speak. There was almost like a temple dedicated to each one, and a day of celebration or a festival dedicated to each one. So there's something for every situation.
I love it. No, I love it. You guys have to just get the book and read about it. I think it's amazing, and the significance of Juno on the I don't know what her name is, but on June 1st, because June got the name from Juno, as you mentioned. Juno. Yeah. That's why the weddings, everybody wants a June wedding. It's because of Juno, guys. That's why
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And Juno, one of Juno's epithets, Juno Lucina, has a very strong Cancerian vibe about it. Juno Lucina is the protector of women in childbirth, about rejuvenation, rebirth, and protector of the feminine principle. So Cancer, is a sign in June. So
there is so many connections.
It's
amazing. It's amazing. So what do you I know anyway, you don't talk about per se houses and signs in the book, which I think it's actually excellent, because we kind of know what signs, from other teachings. But what do you feel that in which sign would Juno be more comfortable in, and in which maybe she wouldn't? Do you have any from your experience? Because you look at so many charts.
I do. So in Juno's discovery chart, and you can go and find that on astrology.com. Okay.
Or here. I'm going to promote it here.
And I do an in-depth delineation of the discovery chart. So Juno's placed in Aries. And that resonates with Juno's epithet, Juno curatus, of the spear. You know, the word curatus is derived from the Latin of the spear. And that's Juno as a fighter, a warrior. Okay. So very cardinal and full of fire. Juno is quite fiery. But then Juno's about balance, moderation. Juno's a diplomat. You'd have to be a diplomat being married to Jupiter. And you often find, people, judges or diplomats have a strongly placed Jupiter. So there's a resonance with Libra there as well, of course. And in Juno's discovery chart, there is an Aries Libra opposition involving Juno and Mercury and Saturn and Uranus. So Juno's very much about constantly rebalancing the status quo. And we have to do that in relationships, don't we? We constantly have to rebalance the dynamics and the division of power. It's very important. Juno's about fair division of power in relationships. But then Juno's got a very strong lunar resonance too. So Juno's comfortable in Cancer. So do you know what? I think Juno's very comfortable in any cardinal sign. Any cardinal sign.
Yeah, I like that. I feel that, Juno is like a secret weapon. That's how I see her. She's like a secret, strength that gives you right in the relationships. I know mine is in Aquarius. So, secret weapon could be, being more objective or understanding the partner or giving partner freedom, having that understanding. So whichever side it is, maybe, those are your strengths in the relationship that you may be not aware of.
I think that's a really, really good analogy there. And Juno's about our rights in a relationship as well. So we're moving beyond like the love and the romance that we associate with Venus. Juno's about the rights. It's about, who owns half of the money, who owns half of the house. It's about the realism, not the romance. And, Juno's often very present in charts of divorce, when a couple are getting divorced or when a couple are getting married. How do you divide the assets and the practicalities? But Juno's about rights. So Juno in Aquarius is about your right to conduct a relationship on perhaps not conventional terms. It's about the freedom to conduct your relationship in your own unique way, to give you and your partner freedom. So you can overlay the sign onto your rights within a relationship.
No. Yeah, it's very interesting. And my husband, he has Juno and Venus conjunction, 2 minutes apart, like the same degree in Gemini, which, I'm also a very Gemini. So there's a lot of, anyway, but it's interesting. I find Juno very prominent, very active in the charts. These are just my examples, but I'm looking through others as well. You can see Juno I put it as important as Venus when I look at somebody's chart. That's how when I look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just what the placements you just described there between you and your husband, you've both got Juno in air. The communication, you should have a lovely ability to communicate with each other.
That was the basic of our relationship. We were friends in the beginning, and that's from the friendship the romance came, literally. So that's the intellectual connection and to talk to each other. So that is seen, and it's lovely to see house positions and everything. It's just beautiful. I know that you have I don't know if you want to share it now, but you have this lovely Juno story of yours with your son. If you just want to quickly share, maybe. I love that story. It's so cute.
I know it's quite deep, isn't it? It really is lovely. So I talk in the book about Juno possibly being a benefic in a divine providence, a protector. And I talked earlier about Juno Lucina protecting women in childbirth and labor. So when I was pregnant, which is quite a few years ago now, my son's 14 now, I was incredibly fit, had, There was no problems in my pregnancy whatsoever. I was working the day that I went into labor. I just kept working.
Capricorn rising with the moon there, yes.
I know. I think I was so bored and fed up. I was just like, oh, I want this baby out. I'm just going to keep working. So no problems anticipated whatsoever. And then everything just went incredibly wrong. And we ended up being rushed from one hospital to another hospital with the blue lights flashing in the ambulance.
Wow.
He nearly died. I nearly died.
Oh my God.
And the fact that he was actually born with no side effects from the struggle that he had is incredible. And I had sort of no significant side effects, but we were so lucky. And it wasn't until years after that I kept looking and think, oh, we're so lucky to be here. And we have a very, very deep, close bond. Then I discovered Juno. So I started going back to all those important events in my life. We always pull up charts of important events in our life, don't we? And I put Juno into it, and it was incredible because the day my son was born, with the whole drama, the emergency, the surgery, I ended up in surgery. And Juno was exactly conjunct my Pluto, which sits in the 8th house. And it was a life or death situation.
Wow.
And to this day, none of us quite know how we've walked away with no side effects or anything. And it was like there was something protecting us on that particular day. And it's a very 8th house theme as well, life and death.
Amazing.
The surgery. Needless to say, my son is Scorpio rising.
Well, that happens. A lot of Scorpio risings came to this world with with that kind of struggle, but
But of course his Juno, obviously Juno is on his midheaven and it falls right on top of my Pluto. So we've got this Juno midheaven Pluto dynamic between us, which it's fated, I think. There's a lot of a sense of fate there. So what could have been a really sort of tragic story was actually, it was fine. It was fine. There was something, we were blessed. That's the word. We were absolutely blessed that day.
I love that. I love that.
So many stories like that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I feel Juno is important. As you mentioned, she's like a combination of Venus and Jupiter together in one. Because
absolutely.
She's right.
Yeah,
that's how I find her. Like a beautiful. I don't know. It's just. As you say, more than meets the eye, guys. So I really highly recommend you get this book from Lianne. It's gonna give you an understanding why you need to include Juno in your interpretations, in your charts. So this is on a personal level, a lot of things. Just quickly, if you have, I know you have many examples of mundane examples. So just give one example for people to understand how this also works in how the world is governed, how Juno happens.
So the world's governed by politics, isn't it? Okay, and we look at the political dramas going on everywhere in the world at the minute. Absolutely incredible. And the world is built on negotiations and deals and financial bargaining, etc. So you often find Juno involved in all sorts of important political deals. So, at the minute, Trump is trying to negotiate peace between Russia and the Ukraine. Juno's going to be incredibly important there. She will be incredibly important.
But she's going retrograde in March as well. So we have Venus going retrograde, but Juno is also going retrograde in March.
Well, what's going to happen? This is a really important point that we should get into. So this year, we're going to see Saturn and Neptune move into fire, into Aries, aren't we? All right. We're moving into an era of air and fire after a long time in earth and water. Okay. So in February, 21st of February, that's already happened actually last week. I've lost track of time. Too much Pisces energy at the minute. I've just lost track of time.
What is time anyway, Lianne? What is time anyway?
Well, exactly. Yeah, about Capricorn. I'm usually really good at time. So Juno moved into Sagittarius, okay? And that's where Juno fights for justice, for our legal rights, for our cultural rights, for international rights, and anything like that, okay? So Juno is leading the way into fire this year, all right? Then she'll go retrograde back into Scorpio, okay? And then we're going to have Neptune move into Aries, and Ceres, your planet Ceres, is going to move into Aries along with Neptune, with Saturn as well. So both Juno and Ceres, sisters in arms, they're going to be so important as we're moving into fire. They're going to support us. And I was doing I did the duets last night, and I was talking about Juno and Ceres. And I said, they're like people up for awards at the Oscars. We've got the Oscars this weekend. So you have the leading actors, and then you have the best supporting actors. And that's what Juno and Ceres and the other asteroids are like. They're like the best supporting actors. So, you know, you can have a marvelous film, and the leading actor perhaps gets all the, you know, the acclaim. But the best supporting actors equally as important.
Yeah.
And that's what these asteroids, especially Juno, are like. So yeah, Juno going into Sag is really going to lead us into the fire that we're moving into this year and beyond.
That is true. I was thinking Ceres was in Capricorn all last year. She went way back. So we felt that Capricornian energy with Pluto being in the last degree and Ceres all the time. Like I'm not kind of surprised that, you know, whatever happened, because it was a lot of that, not letting go of the old, you know, traditional conservative way that but the new world is one way or another. So I think this is just
well, it is. And you know, I think Juno going into Sagittarius sort of until March, that type of thing, and then she moves back into Sagittarius on the 1st of October. Juno will be key in Sagittarius in all the legal sort of ramifications of all the agreements that are going to come. We're going to have some dynamic action around peace agreements moving forward.
The fall. I think we still need to kind of clean up, because, you know, all this dance between Aries and Pisces, there's a lot of cleanup going on in 2025. Like it literally. And you just confirmed with Juno going back to Scorpio, it's also behind the scenes, secret arrangements, secret deals. Those need to be kind of cleared or whatever, right?
They do. And can I share an example of that? Because was it 2 weeks ago when we had the full moon at 24 Leo? It was on the 12th of February, okay? And in that new moon, obviously, we had the moon in Leo, the sun and Mercury were in Aquarius, and then Uranus and Taurus formed a fixed T-square. There was a lot of pressure with that full moon. And around that time, the hostage exchange between Israel and Hamas looked as though it was in danger of falling apart. And I think the world was getting worried in case the deal was going to fall through. And President Trump was saying things like, oh, you know, if nothing can be agreed by Saturday, the deal's off and all hell will break loose. He was literally using words like that. And we could feel the pressure of that T-square in that full moon. And I think the world was holding its breath. We were like praying, please don't let this peace deal fall through, you know. And I kept looking at the chart because Juno was opposite Uranus at that full moon, forming a fixed grand cross. But Juno formed a lovely water trine to Neptune. And I looked and I was like, and Juno was in Scorpio at the time, picking up the last degrees of Scorpio, Neptune, the last degrees of Pisces. And I was like, there will be so much negotiation going on behind the scenes. The diplomats will be doing everything they can to make sure this peace deal doesn't fall apart. And sure enough, it stayed where it was, and the exchange went ahead. And that was Juno working behind
Yes,
the scenes.
I remember that day. 29 degrees Neptune and 29 degrees Juno were making a trine. I thought this is so significant. And yeah, you're right.
I think Juno solved that. I think Juno sorted that situation out, because Juno's a brilliant problem solver. Juno helps solve problems.
Yeah. I know. And she has allies, as you remember, she has her allies that she works with to help her. Like, people want to help her. Like, so she's not alone. Like, there's a whole group of people helping her.
Yeah, it's about collaboration.
Yeah. So Jeannie's here. Hi, Jeannie. Welcome. Where is Juno happiest, or where is the most challenges? If we were to play with the idea of domicile exhalation determined fall. I will go back. So Lianne said that she likes to be in cardinal signs. So that was, and then we didn't talk about the most challenging. I don't know, you didn't mention the most challenging, so you can maybe mention that. What do you feel that it's most challenging sign for her?
I don't know that Juno would. I think Juno would work in any sign. I think Juno's so versatile, and I'm not a huge one for labeling planets as weak or in detriment. Don't get me wrong. I do consider them when I'm looking at charts, but I'm kind of like, you know what?
I find that there is strength in each sign, Juno sign. As we mentioned, Jeannie, you'll go back, you'll see. We'll talk about it. I have a Juno in Aquarius, but then there's a strength in, and in rights, and in fighting for rights and for equals. And I always fight for underdogs, to be honestly. And in my life, I always, maybe this Juno in Aquarius is always kind of fighting.
Perfect. Underdog. Yeah, absolutely. And Juno, one of Juno's epithets, Juno Sospita, she's protector of her people. She protected the people of Rome. She protects the people's rights. So Juno's about people's rights, which in Aquarius is huge.
Yeah.
But I think Juno will, any sign that Juno's in, Juno will help strengthen the qualities of that sign and how they manifest in any particular natal chart. Juno, it does mostly function as a benefic, so a positive energy. So she will help activate whichever sign she's in, without a doubt.
Yeah, so I have to mention this because I know Juno was jealous. Okay, she was jealous, so there's like a little negative thing. Do you feel that it can be vengeful? Is that the English word?
Yeah. I think Juno has a vengeful streak, and that leads us to another one of Juno's epithets, Juno Moneta. Because Juno had coins minted to her, so we associate Juno with money. I said about the division of money in relationships, and assets.
Yes.
But Juno Moneta has got a very scorpionic feel to it, and Scorpio has a sting in the tail. It does, and so I do think Juno is quite capable of feeling a little bit of bitterness and revenge, and certainly in the myth. She played all sorts of horrible tricks on the people, that Jupiter was dallying with, and the offspring, some of Jupiter's children that weren't to her. Juno could play some quite nasty tricks on them
if she's pushed. But usually it's not. I don't think it's in her nature. I don't think it's like she's born to do it. It's just the circumstances, or when she's hurt, or when she's kind of, then that's when she did it. So again, for anybody who doesn't have a book, Lianne's new book about Juno, I have to promote it because I love it so much. There's so many, and you can find these little Junos, Juno Moneta, Juno.
It's all in there.
You mentioned the one, So she can have that little thingy. So be careful, right?
It's probably about self-protection as well. And Scorpio does have a survival instinct, doesn't it? So there is that sense. But any planet has light and shadow. Any planet. So I love Juno, but I'm not going to pretend that there isn't a slight shadow side.
I know. There's always shadow side. What I like as well about Juno is that she's not giving up. She's very, very persistent, like this little Capricorn energy as well in her. Like you said, she's very cardinal. She's, she's an action oriented. She wants to get the results and deal with stuff and persistent. So whenever you have Juno in your chart, I feel that house, you can be more persistent and more determined. That's how I find it. Like you can just push it and don't give up. Like I have Juno in the 5th house, and I couldn't conceive. And at the end, I went to IVF, but I got my son. So it was like I was, I used that Juno in a way, which is also
Juno. Juno protects women in childbirth, women having babies, having Juno in your 5th as a benefic. Juno probably helped you out in that situation.
And in Aquarius, futuristic IVF, a futuristic treatment. So there's like there's a story. Like as I said, Juno in my chart is very prominent. Like I never thought, because I have nothing in Aquarius, it doesn't make any major aspects to any of my planets, but she's so prominent nevertheless. So that's what I'm saying. Even if it's not touching any of your planets, if you're touching over any of your angles or something, she's still prominent, and I'm 100% proof of that. So very interesting. How do Juno returns seem to show up? Oh yes, Lianne talked about it every 4.5 years, and she said it's very important.
Juno returns are great. They're really great. So they're really important signposts within our relationships or creative projects or our relationship with money, with ourselves, any form of relationship in our lives. So every 4.5 years, brilliant time to reassess, see what's working, see what's not working. All right. And sometimes if we've got a Juno retrograde period, you'll have 3 passes of a Juno return. And that's always a really significant year, regarding anything, around how Juno manifests in your chart. 3 passes of a Juno return, great. It's going to be a dynamic year. It's really going to be a dynamic year in relationships, but in anything that's important to you, anything that you put your creative work into, or anything that you feel a sense of drive and responsibility around.
Yeah, and it can have a long-term impact that year for, in your life.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt,
Yeah, before we kind of finish up, I was just wondering, now that you talk about transiting Juno coming through some of your houses or touching some of your planets, what is that impact in your experience? You mentioned on the mundane level there is a lot, but maybe on a personal level?
On a personal level, I find Juno acts a little bit like Mars. So you have a Mars transit and you get a burst of energy, in the area of the chart that Mars is contacting. Juno brings a cardinal energy, and she will bring a focus. And Juno transiting your chart wants you to focus and open your eyes to that point in your chart and to get real about it. So, for example, if Juno's, I don't know, transiting your Mercury, for example, okay, and imagine you've got 3 passes of Juno forming a conjunction with your Mercury. You're going to put action and energy into any forms of communication, learning, etc. It's probably going to be related to relationships with siblings or your neighbors or networking. Juno conjunct Mercury, brilliant for networking, collaborating, that type of thing. It's just going to bring energy and really open your eyes to possibilities, because I think Juno brings opportunity. Benefics do bring opportunity. Jupiter brings opportunity. So does Venus. So Juno does the same thing. So it's about getting real and sort of saying, what can I actually do about this? And chances are probably more than you originally realized.
Very good. Yeah, Gina, you mentioned in the beginning, she's a practical Venus. That's what Lianne says. And I think it's brilliant. Brilliant thing to say. Anyway, excellent. Before we kind of finish up, I just want to encourage everybody to get the book. I think they can get the book on Amazon, you said, right?
Yep, you can get it on Amazon in various different locations throughout the world. And you can also get it direct from my website as well. So it's just liannemccafferty.com, and then there's a Juno page. Go to the Juno page and you can just order direct straight from me.
Excellent, excellent. I highly recommend it. It's as Lianne said, it's a third benefic, and I think the more we incorporate Juno in our divinatory work, the more we're gonna find more hope and optimism even in our charts, because it's brilliant, and it just I love it. Do you want to say anything before we finish? Did I miss anything? Is there anything like a final words or summary that you want to convey?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot there, but obviously there's a lot more in the book. But what I wanted to do with the book was not force my research and my thoughts on people. I wanted to open people's eyes, and I wanted to encourage people to go and explore Juno, to work with Juno and form their own ways of working with Juno, rather than doing the classic Juno through the signs and Juno through the houses. I'm really practical, and that's why I like to work with chart examples and show people the various ways in which Juno works, and then hopefully inspire people to go and explore for themselves.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And examples, as I mentioned, natal examples, mundane, synastry, medical, and one more. There was 5.
The divine providence, the benefits.
Yes. Anyway, the most important one. Anyway, so that's all in the book. Thank you, Lianne, for your time today, for your knowledge and insights and inspiration. And I'm so happy that you made this book. I think it's a brilliant addition for anybody who is looking into, people are talking about relationships and obsessing about relationship. Without knowing Juno, you're missing, guys, you're missing out on a lot of things. Not just personal relationship, right? It's about mother and child, it's about friendships, about business relationships, all kind of connections and partnerships possible in the world.
Countries, nations, the relationships between nations and companies and peace, NATO, the UN, anything like that.
Yeah. And there's managers, like everybody landlords. Like there's so many people in your lives. You can look at if you know the data for Juno is very important. So thank you again. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Jeannie. I'll see you soon later today. I'm gonna do a new moon video. So see you later. Lianne,
thank you so much for hosting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, before what is just tell people what is happening in your life now. I know you have a conference coming up, so just quickly, please. I forgot about that. That's important.
No, it's absolutely crazy. So my first in-person conference, the Mayo conference in London. Then I go straight over to Portugal for the ASPAS conference. Then I'm doing a conference in Istanbul in June. Then I'm doing the Astrological Association conference end of August in Nottingham in the UK. And then beyond that, I've got a novel that I'm publishing this summer, which is all wrapped around astrological themes. And then the sequel to Juno, Haumea, that will be out end of this year, probably early 2026, if I'm being realistic. And then, of course, all my tutoring and teaching and consulting. Yeah, it's busy.
You are a true workaholic, and I don't know. I'm amazed by your hard work and by what you're producing, and you have results actually, and it's amazing, and it's so lovely to have you and talk to you. And I hope I'm going to see you one of these conferences soon. I'm still kind of not able to do that right now in a moment with this kid and being in Canada and stuff. But hopefully I will. I'm still needing to convince my husband to move to Britain. Anywhere. I don't care. Anywhere there on the islands. So
use Juno. Use Juno.
That's right. I guess Jeannie's gonna see you somewhere, so she's coming to where? So Jeannie, say hi to Lianne wherever that is. She said, "See you then." So, or see me maybe for Pisces new moon. I don't know what she said. Anyway, thank you very much. See my Gemini brain.
Thank you.